Good morning. Welcome to Plot, Character, and Voice. Um, Thought I'd go over thriller plots today. We did romance last time, um, the importance of plot in episode 2, and an introduction in episode 1. As a reminder, this is my opinion. This is just the way I process information. There are all kinds of different theories, different ideas, um, but this is the way I look at things. Um, as we remember, we've got romance plots. Are they or are they not going to get together? Thriller plots. Will they save the community or the world? Horror plots. Will they survive the night? Um, Mysteries. Will they solve the murder and stop future deaths? And coming of age. Will they be willing to grow up to sacrifice themselves for others? Um, we, in the first few episodes, talked about how, from an evolutionary perspective, our number one priority is survival of self and survival of the species. You can't have one without the other. So that drives things at an animalistic point of view, at the animalistic level. The deep recesses of our brain. That is always our number one priority. You can overcome it, but you have to work at it, and it has to be consciously. At the subconscious level, survival. Now that builds into self, family, community, tribe, the world. And as a result, because that's our number one priority, the reason thriller plots work is because at our basic level is a desire that we continue as a species. And even every society has the same need. This need to experience danger to help us deal with danger. Don't forget, in the 99.99999% of our time on this planet, we have been but moments away from death. Whether it's from a leopard in the tree, the tribe next door, the crocodile in the stream, always surrounded. So how we deal with that is very important. And the people that help us survive are admired at a gut level. Again, nobody wants to be known as a coward. No one wants their children to be fathered by a coward, because it doesn't go well for the survival of the species. And again, at a gut level. The emotion that thriller books strive for and work at is the fear level. Remember, romance, the emotion was at the love level, and it was geared towards releasing the same chemicals as love. At a thriller level, thriller book, the emotions are fear, and the chemicals are the ones that raise your heartbeat, make you sweat, shorten your breath, the same chemicals that cause freezing, flight, or fighting, that reaction inside your gut. Those are the same chemicals that a thriller wants to release. And people read it to get those chemicals. The same reason people go on roller coasters. The same reason people skydive. That adrenaline rush, those fear chemicals, and then overcoming those fear chemicals. it can become addicting, just like romance novels can become addicting. So the plot is geared towards creating that emotion and then solving it so that the emotion can be dealt with and the chemicals can be um, channeled correctly. Now, then, there are also other reasons, of course, for thriller plots. It's to educate, to instruct, to illuminate, to praise, but most of all, it's to create fear and then the resolution of that fear. Okay, that's one thing. So when you're doing your plot for a thriller, you've got to keep that in mind. The question is, will they survive? Will they save the planet or the community or the tribe or whatever it is? And there has to be an actual chance of failure. If there's no chance of failure, there's no fear. Okay, so you want to create that fear. Now then, a lot of thriller plots are plot driven, and what I mean by that is, at the end of the plot, the character is pretty much the same person, but the situation is different. Perfect example is James Bond. The fear is his success or failure and the impact upon the community. We're not worried about James Bond becoming a better person. We're not worried about James Bond growing up and becoming innocent. We're not even really worried about James Bond falling in love. What we're worried about is, will he succeed in saving the world? So if that's the case, that makes the plot even more critical. A character study, a book that's character driven, can be slower as long as we see the progress of the character. A plot driven story needs to be a little bit faster because we can see the changes in situations so much faster, and need that to maintain that level of fear. If you space out the events in a thriller plot too far, the fear goes away. Okay? It's like being charged by a rhino, and the rhino taking a break in the middle of the charge. Fear is going to go down. It can come back up when he starts charging again, but you've got to ramp it back up again. So keep that in mind for your thriller plots, is the pacing, which we'll get into later. But it's very, very important. And the reason it's important, the why, is because you need to maintain that level of fear. You need to maintain those chemicals. In fact, you want to ramp them up, constantly getting worse and worse and worse. One of the things to think about with thriller plots, about why we enjoy them so much, is this concept of the hero. And I will do a separate episode just on the hero's journey and all of those aspects of the plot. But it's the investing ourselves in the hero. Okay? Why? Why is a hero so important to us as individuals? Women and men, female heroes, male heroes, it doesn't matter. There are aspects of the heroes, which we'll get into in character, but when it comes to plots, why is the danger to the hero so important to us? Is because of the identification with the hero. Because we see ourselves in that person's situation and wonder how and what would we do? Would we react as well? Would we be as brave? Would we be as smart? And if not, what can we do about ourselves? And in all honesty, 90% of the time, 95% of the times, we think we would be as brave. We would be as good. We would succeed like the hero. So there is the admiration part about the hero. And like I said, it could be male or female. I mean, Katniss Everdeen in The Hunger Games is one of the greatest heroes ever. It doesn't have to be a male. It is in the majority of the cases, I think, because biologically we're driven to think of that as a male role. It's not just society. And I'll give you the why I think that. If there's a great scene in The Guardian, the movie where there's a Coast Guard helicopter going out to rescue people out of a lifeboat. All right, they lower the basket down, and there's a man and a woman in the husband and wife in the lifeboat. And when the basket comes down, the man starts to get into the basket first. You could almost feel the groan throughout the movie theater. His wife shoots him an ugly look, like he's dirt, and throughout the movie theater, people knew in their gut that was wrong. All right, think about it. If a man puts himself before a woman in a dangerous situation to escape before her, especially a spouse or somebody he cares about, he is viewed as non-heroic. So at a gut level, a buried in the brain type level, men are expected to be more heroic and are thought of as less if they are not. Okay? So you need to keep that in mind for your plot. In the sense of when they get into difficult situations, the man can fail the first time or the second time or the third time. But he cannot stop, and he can't fail to try. He can fail to succeed, but he can't fail to try. You can have your reluctant hero, but once he starts on that quest to solve the problem, to save the world, he cannot fail to try, especially if there's a female involved. Think about that. He can't halfway through the book say, never mind, I'm not going to try and save the world. Or, oh, never mind, I'm going to care about myself more than this person over here. Especially if that person is a woman or a child. Okay? It just doesn't work. And this is where I get back to the why of the story. The objective of the story is for the hero to succeed, to put fear into us. Will he succeed? And then provide him the success. And I mean, if you think about it, imagine a thriller story where if the hero fails, the world ends. And goes through the entire story, and at the end, he fails. The world ends. It doesn't work. You can have him go through the story and die as he saves the world, but the world has to be saved. Otherwise, the story does not work. It will never, ever be popular or succeed. If you have it to where the world ends, or the tribe gets wiped off the face of the earth, or whatever, or the group of bandits on a quest all die and never reach their goal, it just doesn't work. And it doesn't work because it's at a gut level. We want heroes. We want them to succeed. We want to know the species will go on. That if I was in that situation, I would succeed. The human race has expanded throughout the world because of our willingness to be heroes. The person who goes over the horizon to explore. The person who's willing to take on the monsters and dragons to succeed. The person who is able to lead others to success. That's how, without that, we're not here. Okay? We don't ever evolve into what we are. So, the need for a hero is critical to the way we view the world. Now, inside the thriller plot, there's lots of different ways to do it. There's the try-fail cycle. There's a problem. He's got to save the problem. Good one is Dun, I'll have to edit this out. The one with Madonna, um, Da Vinci Code. Okay? That is an exploratory thriller. He's got to learn the facts as he goes along, and he's failed several times. But it's the sense of progress as he's getting better and closer. But he doesn't succeed the first time. He's got to learn things as he goes so that he can overcome. Like I said earlier, thriller plots, the idea is to constantly get worse. So if you try something and fails, the next challenge has got to be even worse. You can't go backwards. It's like levels in a video game. You can't make level 6 easier than level 5. All right? It takes away from that fear that we need to have for the thriller to work. So, in your plot, every step has got to be worse. That's one. 2, you can't make those steps too easy, because then again, there's no fear. Okay? And I also say you can't go on too long. Okay? Because there is at a certain point, you are going to say, you need a resolution. What you can do if you want to go, huge epic novel, you can have goals that are reached. Okay, try, fail, reach goal 1. Reaching goal 1, you figure out, there's a bigger goal, a new goal. Okay, I saved the princess. Now I've got to get her home. Try, fail, succeed. I got her home. Now there is the other tribe attacking from the south. I've got to swivel and try, fail, and succeed. So you've got to have a goal, and you can't have too many try-fails in between. This is one of the problems I've got with Lord of the Rings, is it does go on for quite a bit. And it works. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but it does it because it has goals inside. Gathering of the clans, whatever. So you need to be aware of that in your thriller plots. The progress, okay? How fast it's going, how quick you are to reach the resolution. Is the problem big enough to make it fearful? Is the character both able and threatened because of their competence, whatever. We'll get into characters later. But you need to use plot points that illustrate that. Okay? The type of character you have will drive your plot. Think about that. If it's a James Bond, you need to have different plot elements than if it was Walter Mitty or a milquetoast accountant. Okay? James Bond needs to come up against things that are super impossible to solve, that require a level of expertise that we're not surprised he has. Problems that a average person might come across might not be as bad. They could be as dangerous, but not as difficult to resolve. And or It's his or her special knowledge that allows them to overcome this. Okay, Katniss Everdeen, it's her expertise with a bow that gets her out of a lot of jams. Okay, you could put another female character right in there who has no expertise with a bow, and she's not going to succeed under those plot points. So you got to have a different set of plot points. See what I'm getting at? We desperately want the hero to succeed, but we don't want it to be too easy. Because if it's too easy, he's not a hero. We want in a thriller situation, we want the problem to be overcome to be plausible. Again, it's not plausible, it's not scary. And plausible could be anything from faster than light travel to a disease that turns everybody into zombies. We would say, well, that's not plausible. Well, but if the writer creates a situation in the book where it is plausible, then it will work. Side note on zombies, the reason why I think people like zombies is because it allows them to kill people without having to feel any guilt. It's an enemy that is as smart as themselves, theoretically, or like themselves, a strong, valid enemy that they can destroy without feeling any guilt. That's one of the reasons why I think zombies, people like zombies. I mean, well, you can just see it. But again, if it was really easy to kill zombies and there's no danger, you don't have a plot. You don't have a story. The question is, will they save the world, the community, whatever? And the community could be 4 people on a quest. But it's the concept of if the community doesn't survive, they cannot succeed. And we as a species view that as our number one priority. And because we do, we like stories that show the hero succeeding. We have an emotional reaction, a subconscious, unaware reaction to stories of humans succeeding against danger. I'll give you a story, incident. Reading Stephen King's The Stand the first time. It's a post-apocalyptic story. Disease kills 99% of the people. People start gathering together, but there's a devil figure over, and there's a conflict. But a big chunk of the story is about the disease, what they call Captain Trips. It's a flu-like disease that kills everybody. I've read that book 4 times, and every single time I read it, I come down with a cold. Don't tell me that books cannot impact you at a subconscious level, okay? Stories about a cold and flu that wipes out the world, I read it, I get a cold. Another example. Next time you're reading and somebody yawns in the book, I bet you yawn. I know I do. Just as if somebody across the room looked at me and yawned, I'd yawn. In fact, I'm talking about it, I want to yawn. Books affect us at the subconscious level. That's why we read them. Stories affect us at the subconscious level. Because we have evolved to use them to improve our chance of survival. And thrillers are one of the keys, okay? It's the concept that there's a hero that's going to save us. Could I be the hero? What would I be doing if I was in that situation? Here are instructions on how to survive and save the community. Here are the dangers you need to worry about. Okay, and that danger actually I think works a little bit better if it's unknown or a different danger, um, a new disease, a new which creates a new society, um, aliens, a war movie, but the enemy is both like and different. Um, the main difference is they're not part of our tribe, group, community, world. When you get into thrillers, there are lots and lots of different types, and that's not the issue. The issue is why, and it's the hero overcoming danger to save the world. Remember that always. If that's not what's driving your plot, you're not going to get that emotional reaction inside of your reader, which is what you're supposed to be trying for, because otherwise they're not going to want to read it. That's the reason they are following this story, is to feel that emotion, like we've said over and over again. Um, a couple things, and again, thrillers can be science fiction, they can be historical, they can be um, contemporary. It doesn't matter, and they can have elements of romance and mystery and horror and even coming of age. But the primary question in a thriller is, will they or won't they solve the world? If at the end of the book that question has not been answered, either the book's not a thriller or it's failed as a story. And I would offer, they can, if it's a thriller and they've fallen in love and they've come of age and they've solved the mystery, but the world ends, nothing else matters. So that's the question you've got to drive the plot with, okay? What is the problem they've got to overcome? How do they do it? What happens when they try and fail? Um, all of those type of things. You can or cannot have a character changing during the process. In a thriller, it can go either way. It's up to you. It's up to the nature. And if you do, depending on that choice, will determine which plot elements you want to put in to illustrate that or to create that. Um, couple of little side notes that I've observed on thriller plots. On a post-apocalyptic novel, there are two ways it can go. It can go, technology dies, so then everybody dies. Or everybody dies, then technology dies. An example would be EMP, 2 seconds after. Technology died, and as a result, people started dying. Okay? No food, no water, no power, no medicine, blah, blah, blah. Or you can go like The Stand, uh, everybody dies from a disease, and there's nobody left to run anything. The power goes out because there's nobody in the power plant. So those are two different types of situation for a post-apocalyptic thriller. Um, another little observation is on science fiction versus fantasy. This is my opinion as to what the difference is. The difference is that in science fiction, everything is pretended to be explained by physics, even faster than light, which we know can't happen, but we pretend that there is a physics reason why it was solved. In a fantasy, everything can be explained by magic, and nobody questions it. Why can you wave a stick and that person floats in the air? Um, it's illustrated in the Star Wars trilogy when they tried to explain the Force through some chemicals. That's a physics, and that's what makes it science fiction, instead of the Force just being magic. So you see the different concepts. Um, one of the things you need to worry about with thrillers is making sure that the danger matches up with the environment you're in. Okay? Um, a a being chased by a lion on the savannah of Africa could scare the hell out of you. Being chased by a lion down the streets of New York, maybe not so much. I just got to go in, step inside a building. So you need to make a plot around why you can't just go step inside a building to get away from the lion. Um, just think about that in the back of your mind. So, like we said, thrillers are about creating fear. Okay, you want your readers to have their blood pressure going up. You want to try and keep it up. That's why thrillers are usually fast-paced. And you've got to make it to where I would argue the resolution, the saving of the world, has to be satisfying. You can't just have somebody from the outside come in and say, "Oh, here, by the way, here's a weapon that will win." You need to have them struggle to get that weapon and then win. Um, so that's basically thriller plots, okay? And we'll go into. I want to go into the hero's journey, but I want to do that under character, not under plot. And I think there's a concept that I have that the hero's journey is not about the plot; it's about the hero. It's not about the journey; it's about the hero. Um, and that's why the same things happen over and over again in a hero's journey. You know, the dead mentor or whatever. It's because it's about the growth of the hero, not about the overcoming the whatever. Um, when it comes to, so we'll do that on a separate one. But when it comes, I wanted to talk about the problem that is threatening the world, whether it's an external alien or a virus out of some biological lab, or a gangster trying to take control of the city. It helped. One of the big, and so the problem is saving the world. And what's stopping them from doing so? Not only that, what's stopping anybody else from doing it? It helps to have a good villain. Again, when we get into characters, I'll talk to that about that. But think about that. The hero needs to be driven by plot points, but the villain needs to be driven by plot points also. Okay? In the sense of they've got to have a reason for what the actions they're taking, and a desire to win, and present a adversary that is difficult to overcome. Okay? And from a plot perspective, you need to show that. Even if it's an invisible adversary, there has to be things or something behind stopping the hero. There has to be something for him to overcome. One of the reasons that hero books work so well is because we've all come across that situation. An adversary that is impossible or very difficult to overcome. And it creates a gut-wrenching fear inside of us. Okay? Think about when you were bullied. Think about being physically confronted. Think about the times you failed, and even worse, failed in public. It creates this stress hormone inside of you, which is our way of saying avoid that. All right? It's our body saying, "Oh, don't do that." But we've all been there. And thrillers are a way of creating a stress zone and then relieving the stress. Okay? It's the relieving of the stress is important. If you just created that fear and stress all the time and never relieved it, it becomes an issue. And as the plot goes along, if you relieve that stress, that's okay, a little bit, but you can't relieve it all the way. And you can't leave a big blank between that stress moment. Okay? I like to think when writing a thriller, I want the reader to be worried. Okay? I want the reader to be emotionally worried and not sure whether they'll succeed or not. And I do that through the character and the plot and the voice. But that's the emotion I'm looking for, is that down in the gut, nervous worry. Ramping it up occasionally to full fear, but never letting that worry go away. And like I said, you can keep and maintain that worry and gut churning concern through the plot by how you lay out the points and the things that need to be overcome. You do it through the character. You want the reader to emotionally attach to the character, either as relevant because they like him or her, or because they can see themselves in that situation. So through the plot, through character, and through voice. A good example of that is, as somebody once told me, I'd written a short science fiction story, and I made the character very snarky, very, very snarky. Every other line out of every other thought was him making fun of the world. Um, and another writer told me what they read it. He says, it's great snark. The problem is, if he can be that flippant, then there's not much danger. He can be a little flippant, but when he's flippant and snarky all the time, it lowers the tension level. Because we, in our minds, the readers, are going, well, it can't be super bad. Especially when he's being snarky in his own thoughts. If he was being snarky in dialogue, we could see it, okay? He's putting on a front, whatever, it could still be bad. If I should have been snarky in dialogue and terrified in my thoughts, or the character's thoughts. Just a little lesson that I learned, and found to be very, very true. So, getting back to it. Thriller, the purpose is to create fear. We do that by having a story about the heroes saving humanity, tribe, world, family, whatever. We have them overcoming obstacles to achieve that goal. The amount of obstacles, the type of obstacles, depend upon the type of thriller that you're doing. The character it can be plot driven or character and plot driven. But you can't have I don't think you can have a thriller without a plot thriller in it. There have to be external physical challenges that must be overcome for the hero to succeed. And that's my concept of a thriller plot lecture at the moment. Next time, let's do mystery. We'll go through what it is about mysteries that touch us and make us like them so much. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you later.